Chosen one, why have you been waking up at 3:47 a.m. for the past 6 nights? Why does your chest feel heavy the moment you open your eyes? Why does silence now sound louder than screaming? Stop, right there. Don't scroll, don't move, because what I'm about to tell you isn't coming from me. It's been burning in the atmosphere around your life, waiting for this exact second when you'd finally stop talking long enough to hear it. Something has been trying to reach you, but every phone call, every worry, every voice, including your own, has drowned it out. Heaven has been tapping on your shoulder for months now, but you've been too busy explaining yourself, defending yourself, trying to make people understand you. And God just whispered to my spirit 3 words that will shatter everything you thought you knew about this season. Tell them, stop. You didn't find this message by accident. The algorithm didn't bring you here. Your finger didn't slip. This is a divine interception, a holy interruption, because right now, in this very moment, angels are positioning themselves around the sound of my voice, and demons are trying desperately to distract you away from what's about to be revealed. You've carried losses no one saw. You've smiled through heartbreak that would have destroyed weaker souls. You've waited longer than anyone knows, longer than you even want to admit to yourself anymore. And the enemy has been counting on one thing: that you'd keep talking, keep explaining, keep defending, until you missed the message that's been screaming in your silence. Before we go deeper, before I reveal what heaven has been trying to download into your spirit, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But right now, if you feel that stirring, that electric knowing that this word is for you, type "I'm listening" in the comments. Don't just watch this passively. Let heaven see your obedience. Let the cloud of witnesses know you're awake. Because here's what I need you to understand before we go one word further. God made a decision about your life 17 days ago. A decision so massive, so final, so irreversible that hell has been in panic mode ever since. But you almost missed it because you've been talking. The meaning of that decision? It's coming. But first, you need to understand why silence has become your most dangerous weapon. Why does it feel like your life hit a brick wall in the middle of the highway? Why did everything that was moving suddenly stop? Why does every door you push stay locked? Every plan you make fall apart? Every conversation you start go nowhere? Listen to me carefully, beloved. You're not losing your mind. You're not being punished. You're being repositioned. It's like you've been walking through a hallway where the lights flicker. 1 second you see clearly, the next you're fumbling in darkness. You reach for the doorknob you swore was right there, but your hand finds only empty air. The next chapter of your life froze mid-sentence, and you've been standing in that frozen moment, wondering if God's pen ran out of ink. But what if I told you that pause wasn't a problem? What if that sudden stop was a divine interruption designed to save your life? Think about Elijah under that broom tree. This man had just called down fire from heaven. He'd slaughtered 450 prophets of Baal. He was riding the highest spiritual high of his life. And then Jezebel sent one message, just one threat, and Elijah ran into the wilderness, sat under a tree, and begged God to let him die. 1 Kings 19:4 says he prayed, "I have had enough, Lord. Take my life." From mountaintop to death wish in 24 hours. But here's what Elijah didn't know in that moment. God wasn't done with him. Heaven had 40 more days of purpose waiting. But first, Elijah had to stop talking, stop running, stop trying to figure it out. God let him sleep, fed him, silenced him. Because the next assignment required a man who had learned to hear the still, small voice instead of the earthquake and the fire. You are Elijah under that tree right now, exhausted, confused, wondering if your best days are behind you. But God is feeding you in the silence, strengthening you in the pause, preparing you for the whisper that will redefine everything. Or maybe you're Moses at the Red Sea. Behind you, Pharaoh's army charging with murder in their eyes. In front of you, an ocean that won't move. The people are screaming at you, blaming you, ready to stone you. And God says something that makes absolutely no sense. Tell the people to be still. Exodus 14:14 records it. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be silent. Be silent when everything's falling apart, when the enemy is closing in, when people are demanding answers. Yes. Because some battles aren't won by your words. Some miracles only happen in your silence. Some seas only part when you finally stop trying to explain yourself and let God defend you. Dear one, maybe you're older now. Maybe people don't call like they used to. Maybe your children are too busy, your friends have moved on, your church doesn't notice when you're missing. Maybe you've been sitting in a silence that feels more like abandonment than peace, but heaven hasn't stopped calling your name. In fact, God has been shouting it. But He needed you quiet enough to hear it. He needed the noise to die down, not just around you, but inside you. All those voices you've been listening to, all those opinions you've been trying to please, all those explanations you've been rehearsing, God needed them silenced so His voice could finally break through. Job understood this. For 37 chapters, everyone had an opinion about his suffering. His friends talked and talked and talked, explaining why he was being punished, diagnosing his hidden sins, offering their theological commentary. And Job defended himself, argued, questioned, demanded answers from God. But then Job 40:4 happens. After all that talking, Job finally says, I am unworthy, how can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. And that's when God showed up. Not in the arguments, not in the explanations, in the silence, in the surrender. In the moment when Job finally stopped trying to make sense of it all and just trusted that God was bigger than his understanding. There is a reason God slowed things down in your life. There is a reason doors closed. There is a reason people walked away. There is a reason your plans fell apart. And when I reveal it in just a moment, it will make your spirit tremble with recognition. Because, chosen one, God paused your life because a shift was scheduled. A massive, earth-shaking, destiny-altering shift. But the enemy saw it coming. He saw what was about to break loose in your life, and he panicked. So, he sent chaos. He sent confusion. He sent voices, so many voices, to drown out the one voice that mattered. He tried to keep you talking so you'd miss what God was saying. But you're here now. You stopped. You clicked. You're listening. And that wasn't your decision, that was divine orchestration. Heaven maneuvered you into this moment because what I'm about to tell you next will unlock something that's been sealed since before you were born. Chosen one, if this is already speaking to you, if you feel that electric confirmation in your chest, tap that like button right now. Let this message reach every other soul who needs this, because you're not alone in this season. There are thousands just like you, sitting in the same silence, wondering if God forgot them. He didn't forget you, He positioned you, and what happens next will prove it. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've been walking through a battlefield you couldn't see. Every step you've taken for the past 6 months, maybe longer, has been through smoke and shrapnel that your natural eyes can't detect. But your spirit has been bleeding. You thought it was just bad luck when that check didn't come through. You thought it was just coincidence when your daughter stopped calling as much. You thought it was just your age when that heaviness settled on your chest every morning. But what if I told you that none of it was random? What if I told you that you've been under a calculated, strategic, demonic assault designed specifically to shut your mouth before you could speak what God is about to give you to say? Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Why did that financial pressure hit you the exact week you were finally feeling peace? Why did that family conflict explode the moment you started praying more consistently? Why did discouragement flood your mind right after you sensed God was about to use you? The Apostle Paul saw this clearly when he wrote in Ephesians 6:12, For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age. Paul didn't say we might wrestle or we could face. He said we do wrestle, present tense, active combat, right now. But here's what most preachers won't tell you from that pulpit. Here's the part that's been hidden in plain sight. The attack wasn't about your past. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on yesterday. He doesn't deploy his best demons to remind you of sins God already forgave. The attack was about your future. Think about this. When Pharaoh heard that Hebrew babies were being born, what did he do? He ordered every male child killed. Why? Because he knew a deliverer was coming. When Herod heard about Jesus, what did he do? Massacred every baby boy in Bethlehem. Why? Because he sensed a king had been born. The enemy doesn't attack random people. He attacks threats. And beloved, if you've been under relentless assault, if the pressure has been unbearable, if the warfare has been so intense you've questioned your own sanity, that's not proof you're cursed. That's proof you're dangerous. You've been feeling forgotten, haven't you? Like the world moved on without you, like your voice doesn't matter anymore. Like at 72, at 68, at 81 years old, you're just supposed to sit quietly in the corner and wait for heaven. That feeling? That's not from God. That's a weapon. A psychological warfare tactic designed to convince you that silence is surrender, that quietness means irrelevance, that stillness equals death. But God is saying something completely different. He's saying, I need you quiet right now because I'm about to speak through you, and if your mouth is already running, there's no room for my words. Job understood this. For 37 chapters, his friends talked and talked and talked. They explained his suffering. They diagnosed his problems. They offered their wisdom. And God was silent. But when Job finally stopped defending himself, when he finally held his tongue and waited, God spoke. And when God spoke in Job 38, he didn't whisper, he thundered. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Your silence isn't weakness, it's warfare. Your quietness isn't defeat, it's strategy. Look at what's really been happening to you. That sudden wave of discouragement that hit you last Tuesday morning. That wasn't depression. That was a demonic assignment to make you doubt what God already confirmed. That unexpected bill that showed up when you were finally getting ahead. That wasn't bad luck. That was a targeted financial attack to distract you from your assignment. And that conflict with your son, your daughter, your sister, the one that came out of nowhere and made no logical sense. Beloved, that wasn't about the dishes or the holiday plans or who said what at dinner. That was the enemy trying to isolate you from your prayer covering, from your support system, from the very people who would encourage you to keep pressing forward. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. Here's the revelation that changes everything. The attack intensified because a door is about to open. Hell doesn't panic over people who are stuck. Demons don't mobilize against believers who are comfortable. But when heaven is about to release something, when God is about to shift someone into their next dimension, when a divine door is creaking open, that's when all hell breaks loose. You think the warfare got worse by accident? You think the pressure increased randomly? No. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the louder the battle becomes. Not because you're losing, but because the enemy knows his time is running out. Right now, if you're recognizing your story in these words, if you're feeling that confirmation in your spirit, if you know beyond knowing that you've been in a battle you couldn't name until this moment, type, I will not break in the comments. Let hell see your declaration. Let heaven record your stand. Because what's coming through that door, what's about to be released in your life, what God is preparing to do through your obedient silence, is so powerful that the enemy had to try to stop you before you even got close to it. But he failed. You're still here, you're still standing, you're still breathing, and that door, it's not just opening, it's about to explode off its hinges. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. 17 days ago, something happened in the courts of heaven that changed everything about your situation. While you were sleeping, while you were worrying, While you were trying to figure out how to fix what's been broken in your life, your name was spoken in the courts of light. Not whispered, spoken, declared, announced before the throne of the Almighty. Do you understand what that means? In the supernatural realm, there are proceedings happening right now that involve your destiny. Revelations 12:10 calls Satan the accuser of our brethren. He's been standing before God day and night, pointing at your mistakes, your failures, your weaknesses, screaming about that divorce 30 years ago, reminding heaven about that addiction you battled, throwing your past in God's face like evidence in a cosmic courtroom. But 17 days ago, the judge stood up, and when the Ancient of Days rises from his throne, every voice goes silent, every accusation stops mid-sentence, every demon backs away. Because when God makes a decision, it's final, it's irreversible, it's sealed with blood that flowed from Calvary 2,000 years ago. Job 23:13 says, "But he is in one mind, and who can turn him?" When God decides, beloved, no devil in hell can overturn it. No circumstance on earth can cancel it. No human opinion can reverse it. God remembered you, not your works, you. Not your church attendance record, not how many times you've tithed, not whether you read your Bible this morning. He remembered your name, the name he called you before your mother's womb was even formed, the name written in his book before time began, and he ruled in your favor. Let that sink into the deepest place in your spirit. The verdict is in. The decision has been made. The gavel has fallen, and every principality, every power, every ruler of darkness that's been assigned to your destruction just heard the sound that terrifies them most, the sound of God saying, "Enough. This one is mine." Touch them again, and you answer to me. But here's what's happening right now that you need to understand. The enemy knows about this ruling. He heard it. He felt the shift in the atmosphere over your life, and for 17 days, he's been in absolute panic mode, throwing everything he's got at you to keep you distracted, to keep you talking, to keep you explaining yourself to people who will never understand you anyway. Think about it. Haven't the attacks intensified lately? Haven't the accusations gotten louder? Haven't people who've been quiet for years suddenly started speaking against you? That's not coincidence, dear one. That's confirmation. Hell only fights what heaven has approved. Daniel 10 tells us about a prophet who prayed for 21 days. 21 days of silence. 21 days of wondering if God was listening. But the angel finally appeared and said, "Daniel, from the first day you set your mind to understand, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. The answer was released on day 1. But there was warfare in the atmosphere, spiritual resistance, demonic interference, trying to stop the breakthrough from reaching Daniel's reality. Your breakthrough was released 17 days ago. But something has been fighting to keep it from manifesting in your physical world. And I'm about to tell you what that something is. It's your own voice. Every time you've spoken doubt, every time you've rehearsed your problems, every time you've told someone how bad things are, you've been giving the enemy ammunition to delay what God has already decided. Proverbs 18:21 doesn't lie. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Your tongue, chosen one, not someone else's, yours. You've been speaking death over what God declared life. You've been announcing delay over what heaven marked urgent. You've been testifying to your struggle when God already testified to your victory. But right now, this very second, you have a choice. You can keep talking, keep explaining, keep defending yourself to people who weren't in the courtroom when God made his decision. Or you can close your mouth, lift your head, and receive what's already been ruled in your favor. Say it out loud right now. Don't just think it. Speak it into the atmosphere. God decided for me. Say it again. Louder. God decided for me. One more time, like you believe it. God decided for me. Do you feel that shift? That's not emotion, that's the spiritual realm responding to agreement. That's angels moving into position. That's the enemy backing up because he just heard you align your voice with heaven's verdict. Your season of wandering has expired. Your time of wondering if God sees you is over. Your days of questioning whether you missed your moment have been cancelled by divine decree. But here's the part that's going to shake you. The reason God needs you silent right now isn't just about stopping negative words. It's because He's about to speak something so sacred, so specific, so personally tailored to your next chapter, that if you're still talking, you'll miss it entirely. And what He's about to say will explain why everything you've been through, every betrayal, every loss, every night you cried yourself to sleep, was actually preparation for this exact moment, when silence becomes your greatest weapon. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. There is something moving toward your life right now. Not someday, not eventually, right now. While you're sitting there watching this screen, while your heart is beating, while breath is still in your lungs, something massive is approaching you at divine speed. A blessing, a connection, a breakthrough so precise, so perfectly timed, so specifically designed for your exact coordinates in life, that if you blink at the wrong moment, if you're distracted by the wrong voice, if you're spiritually asleep when it arrives, you will walk right past it. And the tragedy, the absolute heartbreak, is that you'll never even know what you missed. Let me paint you a picture that's going to shake you. You're standing on a train platform. It's early morning, cold. You've been waiting for what feels like forever. Your knees hurt, your back aches, you're tired of standing. You've watched other trains come and go, carrying other people to their destinations, and you've wondered if maybe your train just isn't coming anymore. But then you hear it. That low rumble in the distance, the vibration under your feet, the whistle cutting through the fog. Your train is approaching, the one with your name on the manifest, the one that's been traveling through time and circumstance and divine appointment to reach this exact platform at this exact moment. But here's the problem. Here's why I'm standing in this gap right now, raising my voice like a watchman on the wall. You're not on the platform anymore. You've wandered off. You're in the waiting room, talking to strangers about your problems. You're at the ticket counter, still arguing about the price. You're in the parking lot, explaining to anyone who'll listen why you deserve a first-class seat. And while you're talking, your train is pulling in, stopping, doors opening, waiting exactly 90 seconds, then leaving, without you. Proverbs 17:28 says something that will cut you if you let it. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. Do you understand what Solomon is telling you? Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is shut your mouth and position yourself. You're older now. Let's be honest about that. You've lived 70 years, 80 years, maybe more. Your children are grown. Your career is over. The world has 1,000 subtle ways of telling you that your time has passed, that your season is finished, that you should just sit down and wait quietly for the end. But heaven doesn't retire its chosen ones. God doesn't put expiration dates on His promises. Moses was 80 when the burning bush spoke. Abraham was 99 when the covenant was renewed. Anna, the prophetess, was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple, while younger, stronger, supposedly wiser religious leaders walked right past him. Do you see the pattern? The blessing came to those who were positioned, to those who were watching, to those who had learned the power of sacred silence. But here's what's going to make you uncomfortable. Here's the part where I stop being gentle and start being honest. That blessing that's approaching your life, it's not going to look like you think it should. It's not going to arrive wrapped in comfort. It's going to require something from you that terrifies you more than death itself. It's going to require courage, not the courage to fight. You've done enough fighting, not the courage to speak. You've done enough speaking. It's going to require the courage to be silent when everything in you is screaming to defend yourself. The courage to hold your tongue when you're being misunderstood. The courage to let God be God while you finally learn to just be still. In Exodus 14:14, Moses told a terrified nation something that should be tattooed on your spirit. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. They were trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army. Death ahead, death behind. And God said, "Stop talking, stop panicking, stop trying to figure this out, just watch what I'm about to do." But how many of them missed the miracle because they were too busy complaining? How many were so focused on their fear, so consumed with their opinions, so loud with their doubt, that they couldn't hear the divine instructions that would save their lives? That's you right now. I'm not being cruel, I'm being clear. You've been so busy explaining your situation, justifying your choices, defending your timeline, arguing with God about why things should be different, that you've missed 17 opportunities He's already sent your way. 17. I didn't pull that number out of the air. Count back over the last year. How many times did you feel a nudge to call someone and didn't? How many times did an opportunity appear and you talked yourself out of it? How many times did God whisper go and you said, "But let me just explain why I can't"? Every time you chose explanation over obedience, you missed your train. But here's the mercy in this moment. Here's why you're hearing my voice right now. Your train is making one more stop. God is giving you one more chance to position yourself on the platform. One more opportunity to close your mouth, open your spirit, and receive what He's been trying to give you. Say it with me right now, wherever you are. Say it out loud so your own ears can hear your voice making this declaration. I refuse to miss what God is sending. Say it again, louder. I refuse to miss what God is sending, because what's coming next is going to require you to do something that goes against every instinct you have. It's going to ask you to be quiet when you're right, to be silent when you're misunderstood, to hold your peace when you're being judged. Are you brave enough for that kind of faith? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Something is moving in the spiritual realm right now, not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, while you're sitting there, while you're listening to my voice, while your heart is beating in your chest, there's a massive shift cracking open over your life like thunder breaking through a silent sky. You feel it, don't you? That stirring in your chest, that electricity running through your veins. That's not anxiety. That's not your imagination. That's recognition. Your spirit recognizing what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. It's closer than you think. For months, maybe years, you've been waiting for something to change. You've been praying for breakthrough. You've been crying out for doors to open. But what if I told you that the shift you've been begging God for has already been set in motion? What if the breakthrough isn't coming, it's already here? And you've been too busy talking, too busy explaining yourself, too busy defending your position to notice it. It's nearer than it feels. Let me ask you something that's going to shake you to your core. Why do you think you survived all that heartbreak? Why do you think you made it through that divorce that should have destroyed you? Why do you think you're still standing after burying people you thought you couldn't live without? Why do you think your spirit wouldn't let you quit, even when quitting felt like the most logical option? Because God has been protecting something inside you, something the enemy has been desperate to kill, something that's been hidden, dormant, waiting for this exact moment when heaven would say, "Now, release it, now." It's happening even now. Proverbs 18:21 tells us, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." Do you understand what that means? Your words don't just describe your reality, they create it, they build it, they lock it in place or tear it down. And for the last several months, the enemy has been manipulating you into speaking defeat, speaking doubt, speaking fear, speaking your pain over and over again until your own voice became the cage that trapped your miracle. But something shifted 17 days ago. God made a decision. He looked at your situation, He saw the warfare you've been fighting, and He declared over your life, "Enough. I'm intervening now." But they need to stop talking long enough to hear what I'm about to do. Why do you think everything in your life has felt so heavy lately? Why do you think you've been unusually tired? Why do you think words have been failing you, like you open your mouth to pray and nothing comes out? Why do you think you've been withdrawing from conversations, from church services, from people who used to energize you? Because God has been strategically silencing you, not to punish you, to position you. Think about what happened to Zechariah in Luke chapter 1. This righteous priest stood in the temple, doing everything right, serving faithfully, and an angel appeared to him with the greatest news of his life. His wife Elizabeth was going to have a baby after decades of barrenness. But Zechariah did what most of us do. He talked, he questioned, he doubted out loud. How can I be sure of this? I'm an old man and my wife is well along in years. And you know what the angel Gabriel said to him? You will be silent and not able to speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words. God didn't silence Zechariah out of cruelty. He silenced him out of mercy. Because if Zechariah had kept talking, kept spreading his doubt, kept voicing his disbelief, he would have talked himself right out of the miracle. The very words coming from his mouth would have aborted what God was already forming in the supernatural realm. Beloved, that's you right now. You have been silenced, not cursed, positioned. The delay wasn't rejection. The delay was divine protection, not punishment. Every door that closed when you thought you were ready, God was protecting you from entering prematurely. Every opportunity that fell through when you had already made plans, heaven was redirecting you away from what would have destroyed you. Every time you felt forgotten, overlooked, passed by while others got promoted, God was hiding you until the enemy stopped watching. It's closer than you think. David understood this. When King Saul was hunting him like an animal, when his own wife betrayed him, when he was living in caves eating scraps, David had every right to defend himself. He had every opportunity to speak his case, to rally people to his side, to declare his innocence. But 1 Samuel 24:12 records what David said instead. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me, but my hand will not touch you. David chose silence. He chose to let God fight. He chose to hold his tongue even when speaking felt justified. And that silence, that refusal to defend himself, positioned him for a throne. It's nearer than it feels. Right now, there are people in your life waiting for you to react, waiting for you to defend yourself, waiting for you to explain your choices, justify your decisions, prove your worth. The enemy has stationed them around you like tripwires, knowing that the moment you open your mouth to defend yourself, you'll step out of God's covering and into human battle. But you're not going to do that anymore, because you're finally understanding what Exodus 14:14 means. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. It's happening even now. Can you feel it? The atmosphere around your life is changing. What felt stuck is starting to move. What felt dead is starting to breathe. What felt impossible is starting to crack open. Not because you talked your way into it, but because you finally shut your mouth long enough for God to speak His word over your situation. Type, I'm ready for the shift, if your spirit is confirming this word right now. Let heaven see that you're finally willing to trade your voice for His victory, because what I'm about to tell you next will reveal exactly what you must do today, this very day, to step into what God has already prepared. Listen to me, chosen one. Everything I've told you up until this moment has been preparation, but right now, right here, we cross from revelation into action. And what I'm about to give you isn't suggestion. It's instruction from the throne room itself. Your breakthrough requires one step, just one. But it's the step most people refuse to take, because it feels like betrayal, like failure, like giving up on people you love. Here it is. You must not go back to what drained you. I can feel some of you tensing up right now. But that's my daughter's house. But that's the church I've attended for 40 years. But that's the friend who's known me since we were young. I know. But listen to what God just whispered to my spirit. They're confusing loyalty with captivity. There's a difference between honoring your history and being imprisoned by it. There's a difference between loving people and letting them drain the very anointing I need you to carry into your next season. Think about Lot's wife in Genesis 19:26. She didn't go back physically, she just looked back, just one glance over her shoulder at what she was leaving behind. And it turned her into a pillar of salt. Not a monument, not a memorial. Salt. Something that used to have life but became a warning to others about the danger of nostalgia. You're standing at your Red Sea moment, and God is saying the same thing to you that he said to Moses in Exodus 14:15. Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to move forward, not backward, not sideways, forward. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been holding on to old doors with rusty keys, trying to force them open again, wondering why heaven won't bless what it already closed. You've been watering dying gardens, pouring your energy into soil that stopped producing fruit 3 seasons ago. And all the while, God has been standing at a new door, knocking, saying, I have something better. But your hands are too full of the old to receive the new. So let me give you 3 concrete steps, not theory, not theology. 3 actions you can take today that will shift the atmosphere over your life before the sun sets. Step 1. Let go of guilt. You think you owe people explanations for your obedience to God. You don't. When Jesus called his disciples in Matthew 4:20, it says they immediately left their nets and followed him. Not after the fishing season ended. Not after they explained themselves to their business partners. Immediately. Your obedience doesn't require other people's permission. Step 2. Restore your prayer rhythm. You used to pray. I know you did. But somewhere along the way, your prayer life became a list of emergencies instead of a conversation with the Father. Psalm 5:3 says, In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning I lay my requests before you and wait expectantly. When was the last time you waited expectantly? When was the last time you prayed and then sat in silence long enough to hear him answer? Step 3. Reject the fear of being too late. This is the lie that's been strangling your destiny since you turned 65. The enemy whispers, you're too old now, you missed your window. God's moved on to younger vessels. But look at Caleb in Joshua 14:10-11. He was 85 years old when he said, Give me this mountain. 85. And God didn't give him a rocking chair, he gave him a battlefield. Because your age isn't your limitation, it's your authority. Now, here's what I need you to do right now. Don't wait. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Speak this over yourself out loud, right where you are. I will not return to the old season. Say it again, louder this time. I will not return to the old season. Do you feel that? That shift in your chest? That's not emotion, that's confirmation. That's heaven responding to your declaration. Because here's what most preachers won't tell you. Your words create legal authorization in the spiritual realm. Proverbs 18:21 says, Death and life are in the power of the tongue. When you speak what God has already decreed, you're not hoping, you're activating. And the moment, the very second you take this step, something catastrophic happens in the spirit realm. Heaven releases assistance. Not later, not eventually, immediately. Angels that have been waiting for your obedience receive their marching orders. Psalm 103:20 says, Angels obey his word. Not your wish, not your hope. His word spoken through your mouth. Divine alignments that seemed impossible suddenly click into place. People you've been trying to connect with for months suddenly call you out of nowhere. Opportunities you stopped believing in show up at your door without you chasing them. And helpers, oh, chosen one, helpers you didn't even know you needed, start appearing. Not because you manipulated circumstances, but because you finally stopped going back to what God said was finished. But you have to make the move. God's not going to force you forward. He's not going to drag you out of your dying garden. He's a gentleman. He knocks, he invites, he opens the door. But you have to walk through it. So here's my question, and let it sink deep into your spirit. If God has already closed what you keep trying to reopen, What makes you think forcing it open is faith and not rebellion? You're still here. Do you know what that means? While thousands clicked away, while the distracted moved on, while the lukewarm went back to sleep, you stayed. And that's not coincidence, beloved. That's confirmation. God just whispered something to my spirit about you that's going to break you open. They stayed because they recognized the sound of my voice. You didn't endure this message because you're religious. You endured it because something ancient in you remembers the frequency of eternity. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Every single person who has ever walked closely with God has had to learn one devastating lesson. Obedience in silence costs more than sacrifice in noise. Abraham waited 25 years without saying a word about God's broken promise. Hannah wept in the temple so quietly that the priest thought she was drunk. Mary carried the weight of an impossible pregnancy and told almost no one. Why? Because heaven's greatest assignments are always wrapped in secrecy until the appointed time. But here's what's wrecking me right now. Here's what the Holy Spirit is burning into my chest as I speak to you. You will not leave this earth without seeing the promise God whispered to you decades ago. That dream He planted in your 20-year-old heart. That vision He showed you before your first child was born. That knowing that settled in your bones when you were young and still believed anything was possible. It's not dead. It's been protected, hidden, held in heaven's vault while you were being prepared to carry it without it destroying you. Job 14:7 says, "At least there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, it will sprout again, and its new shoots will not fail." Did you catch that? Cut down, not dead, cut down. And what happens to things that are cut down? They come back stronger, deeper roots, thicker trunk, more shade for the weary. You thought your dream was buried. God calls it planted. But I need to tell you something that's going to sound impossible, and yet you're going to know in your spirit it's true. The reason you've had to stay silent for so long is because what God is about to birth through you is so powerful that if you had spoken it too early, the enemy would have mobilized every force of hell to abort it. Your silence wasn't God ignoring you. Your silence was God protecting what He placed inside you. Moses spent 40 years in silence before the burning bush. David spent years in caves before the crown. Joseph spent years in prison before the palace. Jesus spent 30 years in obscurity before 3 years that changed human history forever. And you've spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years being prepared for something that's about to be unveiled in a season so short, so intense, so supernaturally accelerated that people will ask, how did this happen so fast? But you'll know it wasn't fast. It was the compound interest of decades of faithfulness finally maturing. Right now, I'm talking to the grandmother who raised children while swallowing her own dreams. I'm talking to the grandfather who worked jobs that never fulfilled him but kept showing up anyway. I'm talking to every senior saint who has felt like their best years were stolen, their brightest moments wasted, their deepest callings abandoned. God says, what you thought was stolen, I was storing. What you thought was wasted, I was weighing. What you thought was abandoned, I was preparing to activate. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, He has made everything beautiful in its time, not in your time, in His time. And beloved, your time just struck midnight on heaven's clock. But here's the part that's going to shake you. The divine secret behind your suffering, the reason you've carried weight others never had to carry, the explanation for why your road was so much harder than everyone else's. It's not what you think. You weren't punished, you were trusted. God doesn't give His hardest assignments to His weakest soldiers. He doesn't hand His heaviest mantles to people who quit when life gets difficult. He doesn't entrust His most precious secrets to those who broadcast everything. You've been in the silence because you were being prepared to carry something so sacred, so powerful, so eternally significant that loose lips would have destroyed it. And now the silence is about to break. Not with your words, with His move. If you're still here, If you've heard every word of this message, if something in your chest is confirming that this is your moment, type, "I receive this right now." Don't let this word fall on passive ears. Let heaven see your agreement. Let the angels witness your yes. Because what I'm about to reveal in the final section will explain everything. Why your family didn't understand you. Why doors closed when they should have opened. Why you felt like a stranger in your own life. Why the ache in your chest never went away, no matter how much you prayed. It wasn't punishment, beloved. It was preparation. You're not surviving your life. You're stepping into your assignment. And everything you've endured has been the curriculum for your coronation. But the divine secret? The reason behind it all? That's coming next. And it's going to change everything you thought you knew about why you're still here. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. While you were lying awake last Tuesday night at 2:34 a.m., staring at that ceiling, wondering if God had forgotten your address, do you know what was happening 3 feet above your bed? An angel was standing there, sword drawn, blocking something you never saw coming. You think you've been fighting alone all these years? You think those 70, 80, 90 years of survival was just your stubborn will keeping you upright? No, beloved. Someone has been fighting for you without you knowing it. Hebrews 1:14 asks a question that should stop you cold. Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? Sent. Not suggested. Not optional. Sent. Assigned. Deployed specifically to you. But here's what breaks my heart, and listen closely, because this cuts deep. You're older now. Your body moves slower. Your strength isn't what it used to be. And the enemy has been whispering one poisonous lie on repeat. Your angels retired when you did. That's a damnable lie straight from hell's playbook. Your angels didn't retire. They got reinforcements. Think about that car accident in 1987 that should have killed you. The doctor said, "I don't know how you walked away from that. You walked away because someone caught you mid-fall." Think about that diagnosis in 2003 they said was terminal. You're still here, not because of medicine alone, because warfare happened in rooms you never entered. There are battles you survived without lifting a finger, attacks that came at you in the night, spiritual assaults designed to crush your mind, poison your dreams, steal your peace, and you woke up the next morning and thought, "I'm just tired." No, you're victorious. Because while you slept, angels were shifting things behind your back. Psalm 91:11 declares with thunderous authority, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Command, not request, not hope. Command. The creator of the universe looks at your situation right now and commands angelic forces to position themselves around your life. But here's what most people don't understand about angelic protection. It's not random, it's strategic. Your name is on an active file in heaven. Right now, this very second, there's a folder with your full name, your address, your situation, your pain, your impossible circumstance, and written across the top in letters that burn with holy fire, active assignment. Do you know what that means? It means heaven hasn't closed your case. It means your miracle isn't delayed, it's being orchestrated. It means every door that slammed in your face wasn't rejection, it was angelic redirection, protecting you from traps disguised as opportunities. There is an angel assigned to your breakthrough right now, not just protection breakthrough. His name isn't revealed to us, but his role is clear. He's been moving pieces on the chessboard of your life, arranging divine appointments, closing doors to dead-end relationships, opening windows you haven't even noticed yet. And here's what that angel has been doing while you've been talking, explaining, defending yourself to people who don't have clearance to understand your calling. He's been trying to get your attention, trying to download instructions, trying to show you the next move. But you've been too loud to hear him. Angels don't shout over your voice. They whisper. And if you won't stop talking long enough to listen, they can't deliver the message they've been carrying for months. 2 Kings 6:17 records the moment Elisha prayed for his servant's eyes to be opened. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. The enemy was surrounding them, but God's army was surrounding the enemy. What if I told you the same thing is true for you right now? What if the reason you're still standing after everything hell threw at you isn't because you're strong, it's because you're surrounded? The enemy wanted you exhausted, wanted you defeated, wanted you to quit before you saw what's coming. But your angels kept you standing, held you up when your knees buckled, breathed strength into your lungs when you couldn't find the will to inhale one more time. If you're receiving this word, if something in your spirit just recognized the truth of angelic protection over your life, type angel. Go before me in the comments right now. Let heaven see your faith. Let the angelic realm know you're awake to their presence. Because what I'm about to tell you next will explain why they've been so active lately, why the attacks got fiercer, why the warfare intensified. The angels know something about your future that you're about to discover. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. While you've been beating yourself up for not being strong enough, for not praying loud enough, for not having the faith of a mountain mover, heaven has been recording something else entirely. They've been watching the test you didn't even know you were taking. You think God grades you on your victories? No, beloved. He grades you on your midnight moments, the ones when nobody was watching, the ones when you had every right to curse but you whispered thank you instead, the ones when bitterness knocked on your door with a suitcase ready to move in permanently and you said, "Not in my house." Your forgiveness when they never apologized, that was the test. Your tears cried into a pillow at 2 a.m. when you chose to trust God instead of the bottle, instead of the pills, instead of the permanent exit. That was the test. Your silence when you could have destroyed someone with the truth you knew about them, that was the test you passed with flying colors. Proverbs 25:28 says, "A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. But you, oh you've been rebuilding walls in the invisible realm while the world thought you were just sitting there doing nothing." Do you understand what I'm telling you? God wasn't watching your church attendance. He was watching what you did when the church hurt you and you went back anyway. He wasn't counting your Bible verses memorized. He was counting the nights you couldn't remember a single scripture, but you remembered his character and you held on. You've spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years on this earth thinking you were falling behind, thinking you were failing the test, thinking God was disappointed in your slow progress, your repeated mistakes, your lack of breakthrough. But what if I told you that every single day you woke up and chose breath over surrender? That was you acing the exam. What if every morning you put your feet on the floor despite the arthritis, despite the loneliness, despite the bills you can't pay, and the children who don't call? What if that was your dissertation in faith? You outlived the pain that tried to bury you. Let that sink in. You outlived it. The depression that whispered, "Just give up," you outlived it. The diagnosis that came with an expiration date, you outlived it. The betrayal that should have destroyed your ability to trust you, outlived it. Your survival is not luck, dear one. Your survival is your testimony. Every breath is a sermon. Every sunrise you witness is you preaching to principalities and powers that tried to take you out. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been apologizing for still being here. You've been shrinking yourself, thinking you're a burden, believing the lie that your best days are buried in yesterday's graveyard. James 1:12 declares, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." Having stood the test. Past tense. You already did it. You already passed. While you were worried about failing, heaven was writing approved across your file. God was watching your midnight moments, the ones you thought were wasted, the nights you stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep, wrestling with memories that won't stay buried and futures that won't come fast enough. Those weren't wasted hours, beloved. Those were your graduate courses in trust. You think you've just been surviving? No. You've been qualifying. qualifying for an assignment so specific, so tailored to your exact pain, that nobody else on earth could carry it the way you will. But there's one more test ahead, and I need you to hear this clearly. It will feel like a breakthrough, not a burden. It will feel like everything you've been waiting for is finally arriving. But it will require something from you that you've never had to give before. It will require your silence. If you're ready to finish strong, if you're ready to stop apologizing for still being alive, and start recognizing you're alive for such a time as this, say it right now in the comments: I will finish strong. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why God has been training your tongue, why heaven has been teaching you to hold your words, and why the quietest season of your life is about to become the most powerful. You didn't just endure, chosen one. You graduated, and your commencement ceremony is about to begin. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Something just changed in the atmosphere around your life. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. As these words are hitting your ears, there's been a shift in the spiritual realm that you can't see with your natural eyes, but your spirit knows it. That's why your heart is racing. That's why you can't look away. A door that nobody could open for years just clicked. You heard it, didn't you? Not with your ears, but somewhere deeper. That sound of ancient locks turning, that feeling of pressure releasing, like the universe itself just exhaled over your situation. For how long have you been standing in front of closed doors? How many times have you knocked until your knuckles bled? How many prayers have you whispered to wood that wouldn't move? And every time someone asked you about your dreams, you smiled and said, "Oh, I'm too old for that now." You convinced yourself that certain blessings have age limits, that heaven has a retirement plan. But let me tell you something that's going to shatter that lie right now. Heaven does not operate under your birth certificate. God doesn't check your driver's license before he opens doors. He doesn't ask your social security number before he releases miracles. Abraham was 99 when God gave him nations. Moses was 80 when God handed him a staff and said, "Now we begin." Sarah was 90 when her womb remembered how to create life. And you? You thought you were too late. You thought you missed your window. You thought the best chapters of your story were already written and buried in photo albums gathering dust. But what if I told you that everything you thought died is about to breathe again? Ezekiel 37 paints the picture. God takes the prophet to a valley full of dry bones, bones so old they'd turn to dust, bones so dead that hope itself had decomposed. And God asks Ezekiel one question: can these bones live? Look at your life right now. Look at those dreams you buried, that calling you gave up on, that promise God spoke over you 40 years ago that you stopped believing in. Those are your dry bones, and God is asking you the same question tonight. Can these bones live? Your mind says no. Logic says impossible. Your age says it's over. But something in your spirit just whispered, yes. Because the door just opened. Not the door you've been knocking on, not the door you expected, not even the door you thought you wanted, but the door with your name carved into it before the foundation of the world. The door that's been waiting for you to finally stop talking long enough to hear it creak open. You've been explaining yourself for too long, defending your right to dream, justifying why you're still believing, and every word you spoke gave the enemy ammunition to delay what God already approved. But silence? Silence is your nuclear weapon. James 1:19 says, "Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, not quick to defend, not quick to explain, quick to hear." Because what heaven is about to download into your spirit won't come through noise. It's coming through the gap between your words. The next 3 minutes may be the most important of this entire message, because what I'm about to reveal will either activate your breakthrough or you'll miss it completely by not understanding the weapon you've been carrying in your mouth. Right now, if you feel that shift, if something inside you is confirming that this word is yours, comment, "Open the door, Lord." Don't just think it, speak it, type it. Let your obedience become the key that turns in that lock. Because here's what hell doesn't want you to know. The opportunity you thought died in 1987, it's coming back around. The door that slammed in your face in 2003, it just reopened. The dream you buried with your spouse, God just breathed resurrection power over it. But you have to stop talking. You have to stop explaining. You have to stop defending your right to still believe at 70, at 80, at 90 years old. Your silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. And what God is about to do through your closed mouth will leave this world speechless. Listen to me, chosen one. Before God moves you forward, hell always sends something backward. You've felt it, haven't you? Right when you started getting clarity, right when peace finally started settling in your spirit, something old knocked on your door. An old fear you thought you buried. An old habit you swore you'd never touch again. An old relationship that suddenly texted you after 2 years of silence. An old doubt whispering the same lie it told you in 1987. This is not coincidence. This is strategy. The enemy knows something you're just now beginning to understand. God made a decision about your life 17 days ago, and hell has been scrambling ever since to distract you, to pull you back, to make you open your mouth and talk yourself right out of your breakthrough. Before a tree breaks ground, weeds rush in to choke it. Before a baby is born, labor pains try to make the mother give up. Before Israel crossed into the promised land, they had to face giants. And before your promotion manifests, the enemy will send your past dressed up like your future. He'll send that phone call from the person who betrayed you, suddenly wanting to reconnect. He'll send that old addiction whispering, just one more time won't hurt. He'll send that familiar depression creeping back in at 2 a.m., telling you nothing's really changed. He'll even use your own voice, your own thoughts to convince you that this season isn't real, that you're fooling yourself, that you should just go back to what's familiar. But James 4:7 says it plain. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Not might flee, not could flee, will flee, but you have to resist. And right now, resistance looks like silence. Resistance looks like closing your mouth when everything in you wants to defend yourself, explain yourself, justify yourself. What's trying to return to your life right now is not coincidence, it's desperation. Hell is desperate because heaven is ready. The enemy is panicking because your season is shifting. And he knows that if he can get you talking, if he can get you explaining, defending, rehearsing old stories, reliving old pain, he can delay what God is trying to deliver. Think about Peter. Jesus told him, "Get behind me, Satan." Why? Because Peter was talking when he should have been listening. His words, even well-intentioned words, were trying to stop the very purpose of God. And beloved, your words right now could be doing the same thing. That old season is knocking. That old version of you is calling. That old cycle is begging for one more chance. But you need to hear this with every fiber of your being. That old season will not get a second chance at your destiny. Say it out loud right now. Say, "Not this time." Let hell hear you slam that door. Let the enemy know you're not going backward. Let heaven witness your refusal to pick up what you've already put down. Because what's about to happen next requires a version of you that old cycles can't touch. And the only way to protect it is to stop talking long enough to hear what God is actually saying. But here's what most people don't realize about divine silence, and this is about to shake everything you thought you knew about prayer. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. There's a reason why that blessing you prayed for 20 years ago didn't come when you begged for it. There's a reason why that door slammed shut when you were 35. There's a reason why you've been sitting in what felt like a waiting room while everyone else seemed to be called forward. And what I'm about to tell you will either set you free or shake you to your core. God delayed the blessing to protect you from destroying it. You weren't ready. Not because you weren't worthy, but because the version of you that existed back then would have misused what heaven was preparing to give you. You would have taken the gift and run to the wrong people. You would have celebrated in the wrong rooms. You would have spoken about it to voices that had no business hearing your testimony. Proverbs 18:21 cuts straight to the bone. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Did you catch that? Your tongue doesn't just speak about life, it creates it or kills it. And God knew something about you that you didn't know about yourself. You weren't ready to guard what He was about to release. Think about this. A farmer doesn't hand premium seed to someone who hasn't prepared the soil. That seed, no matter how valuable, will rot in unprepared ground. It'll be wasted, destroyed. And the tragedy isn't the seed's fault. It's the timing. You are that soil, beloved. And for decades, God has been breaking up your hard places. He's been removing stones of bitterness you didn't even know you were carrying. He's been pulling out roots of pride that you thought were confidence. He's been tilling, turning, preparing you for a planting season that required mature ground. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what the enemy has been whispering in your ear to make you give up right before harvest. You're too old now. The blessing expired. God moved on to someone younger. That's a lie straight from hell. You're not too old. You're finally ready. You're not past your season. You've entered it. At 70, at 75, at 82 years old, you carry something that 30-year-olds can't manufacture. Wisdom purchased with tears. Discernment earned through betrayal. Spiritual authority forged in fires that would have consumed lesser souls. Heaven didn't forget you. Heaven waited for this version of you. The you who knows how to be silent when God says, stop talking. The you who's learned that every battle doesn't need your commentary. The you who finally understands that your power isn't in your words, it's in your obedience to withhold them. Job 13:5 thunders across the centuries. Oh, that you would be altogether silent. For you, that would be wisdom. Silence isn't weakness, dear one. Silence is the weapon God is handing you right now for what's coming next. But there's one more revelation, the biggest one. And it's going to explain why you felt that pressure in your chest for the last 3 weeks. If your heart is open, if you're ready to receive what God kept hidden until this exact moment, type, I'm ready, Lord, right now. Because this blessing you're about to step into, it didn't just require patience, it required maturity, and you finally have it. Now the question is, will you hold your tongue long enough to receive it? Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, in this very second, there is a mantle descending from the throne room of heaven. Not a metaphor, not a religious cliché, a real, tangible, weighty anointing that angels have been carrying across the cosmos, and it's about to land on your shoulders. But before it does, I need you to understand something that will wreck every lie you've believed about yourself for the last 40 years. You think God has been silent because He was disappointed in you. You think the delays meant denial. You think the closed doors were His way of saying you weren't good enough, weren't holy enough, weren't worthy enough. But what if I told you that every single door that slammed in your face wasn't rejection, it was protection? What if every season of silence was God saying, not yet? Because what I'm about to give you would have destroyed the version of you that existed back then. Proverbs 4:9 declares, she will place on your head a beautiful crown, not might place, will place. Present tense, active, happening right now. You see, beloved, there's a difference between what God puts in you and what God puts on you. He's been putting things in you for decades, gifts, talents, wisdom, discernment, compassion, forged in the furnace of your pain. But what's about to happen is different. This isn't internal anymore. This is external. This is visible. This is a crowning that the world will witness whether they understand it or not. Think about your life for a moment. Really think about it. You weathered storms that should have taken you out at 62. You survived betrayals that should have destroyed you at 70. You walked through valleys so dark that younger people would have given up. But you somehow, miraculously, you kept moving. One foot in front of the other, one breath after another, one prayer when you had no words left. That wasn't stubbornness, dear one. That was preparation. Every tear you cried in secret was anointing oil being stored in heaven's bottles. Every night you didn't sleep was a vigil that angels witnessed. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't was you qualifying for a crown that most people will never even see, much less wear. David was anointed king at 17, but he didn't touch the throne until he was 30. 13 years of running, hiding, being hunted like an animal. 13 years of wondering if God had forgotten his promise. But 1 Samuel 16:13 tells us, "So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David." From that day on, not 13 years later. From the moment the oil touched his head, something shifted in the invisible realm, even though nothing changed in his circumstances. That's you right now. The oil has already been poured. The shift has already happened in heaven. Your circumstances just haven't caught up yet. But here's what's about to wreck you, and I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. You are not just chosen. Chosen means selected, picked out, noticed. But what God is doing with you goes deeper than that. You are commissioned. Commissioned means authorized, empowered, sent with heaven's backing and hell's attention. Isaiah 61:1 says, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor." Jesus read those words in the synagogue and declared, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." Today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when your circumstances line up. Today. Right now, there are people in your bloodline, living and in glory, who are watching this moment. Your grandmother who prayed on her knees until they bled. Your grandfather who worked his fingers to the bone, believing God had something better for his family. That aunt who never married, but carried your name in intercession for 40 years. They're in the cloud of witnesses, and they're not just watching, they're celebrating. Because what they prayed for, you're about to walk in. But I need you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I need you to stop shrinking. I need you to stop apologizing for taking up space. I need you to stop acting like you're lucky to be here when heaven orchestrated your survival through things that should have killed you. Say it out loud right now. Wherever you are, I don't care if people are around. I don't care if it feels strange. Open your mouth and declare, "I receive my crown." Say it again. I receive my crown. One more time with the authority of someone who's been through hell and came out carrying heaven's fire. I receive my crown. Because, beloved, you're not entering your sunset years. You're stepping into the season where heaven makes up for everything you lost. Job lost everything at the beginning of his story. But Job 42:10 tells us, "The Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before." Twice as much, not the same, not just restoration, multiplication. The years the locusts ate, the decades of disappointment, the seasons of struggle, the moments you felt invisible, God has been calculating compound interest on every single one. And the payout is about to hit your account in ways that will leave you speechless. This crown isn't just symbolic. This crown carries authority. When you speak now, things shift. When you pray now, heaven moves. When you walk into rooms now, atmospheres change before you open your mouth. Because you're not just a survivor anymore, you're a general. You're not just blessed, you're a blessing. You're not just getting through, you're breaking through. And the world is about to witness what happens when God finally says, now is your time. But here's the question that will determine everything about what happens next. Will you wear the crown, or will you keep hiding under the weight of who you used to be? Chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold 3 truths in your heart like precious stones. First, silence is not weakness, it's your weapon. When God tells you to hold your tongue, He's not silencing your voice. He's sharpening it for the right moment, the right battle, the right breakthrough. Second, the crown that's been placed on your head isn't symbolic, it's substantial. You are commissioned, not just chosen, authorized by heaven, backed by the Almighty, and hell itself has taken notice. Third, every delay, Every closed door, every season of waiting wasn't abandonment. It was preparation for this exact moment when God says, "Now." But beloved, hear me clearly. You are not walking this path alone. The same God who parted the Red Sea is still moving in your life right now. The same God who made the sun stand still is orchestrating your breakthrough as I speak these words. And beyond that, you have a community right here. Thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggle, who've walked similar valleys, who are ready to lift you up in prayer. So let me ask you this. Now that you know silence is your strategy, now that you understand the crown you carry, what will you do differently tomorrow morning when you wake up? Before you answer that, bow your head with me wherever you are. Let me pray over you with the authority of someone who's seen God move mountains. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every person hearing these words. Lord, you see them, not just their circumstances, but their hearts. You see the battles they've fought in silence, the tears they've cried when no one was watching, the moments they almost gave up but chose to take one more breath. God, I ask that you breathe fresh fire into their weary bones, open doors that no man can shut, silence every voice of doubt, fear, and condemnation. Give them supernatural wisdom to know when to speak and when to be still. Let your favor surround them like a shield. Heal what's been broken, restore what's been stolen, multiply what the enemy tried to destroy. Father, cover them with your presence. Let them feel you right now, not as a distant deity, but as the intimate friend who walks beside them through every valley. Give them dreams that direct them, visions that guide them, and peace that surpasses all human understanding. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart today. Ask for prayer if you need it. This community will surround you. And if this message awakened something in your spirit, share it with someone who needs to hear that their silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Your faithfulness to watch until the end tells me everything I need to know about your heart. You're hungry for truth, desperate for breakthrough, ready for your moment. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Because this isn't just content, this is a movement of chosen ones who refuse to quit. Until we meet again, remember, hold your tongue, wear your crown, trust His timing. God bless you mightily, beloved. Your silence is about to become your victory.